Dr. Elias Thorne adjusted the straps of his backpack and stepped out of the shuttle, his boots crunching softly against the smooth, glassy surface of Violia. The planet stretched endlessly before him in hues of green and violet, bathed in the light of two suns that hung lazily in the sky. A thin mist rolled over the land, glowing faintly with bioluminescent sparks that danced like fireflies. He had imagined this moment countless times on Earth, staring at star maps and reading reports about the newly discovered Zalorian civilization, but nothing had prepared him for the silence that seemed to embrace him now. It was not empty, it was full of quiet life. He could feel the pulse of the planet beneath his feet. A soft hum drew his attention. It was rhythmic, like the beat of a distant heart, and it seemed to travel through the ground into his chest. Elias frowned, glancing around. He could not see its source, but the sound was calming rather than frightening. His scientific curiosity flared as he began taking notes on a small tablet, jotting down the vibrations and the colors of the mist. Every detail mattered. This was the first time humans were allowed to enter the territory of the Zalorians, a species that had fascinated biologists, anthropologists, and sociologists for decades. A gentle sound made him turn. Figures were emerging from the glowing mist, moving with a grace that seemed almost unreal. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light, shifting in subtle patterns of silver and blue. Their eyes were large, luminous, and intelligent, watching him with curiosity rather than fear. Elias froze for a moment, aware that he was the intruder in their world. "Welcome to Violia," said a voice, melodic and soothing, carrying an unfamiliar rhythm that made him listen more closely. The speaker stepped forward, a figure slightly taller than the others, with a soft glow that seemed to come from within. "I am Lyra, your guide." Yet the Zalorian spoke in a language he could understand. The words were clear, and yet they felt like they carried more meaning than just sound. He nodded, trying to hide the sudden thrill of relief. "I'm Dr. Elias Thorne," he said. "I've come to study your species, to understand your culture and your ways." "Follow me." She turned and walked toward a cluster of buildings that appeared to grow organically from the land itself. They were made of a translucent material that reflected the violet light in waves, as if the structures themselves were alive. Elias followed, noting every detail: the smooth curves, the absence of doors in the conventional sense, the soft hum of energy that seemed to emanate from the walls. As they walked, Elias noticed small groups of Zalorians moving about. Some were gathering objects that glowed faintly, arranging them in intricate patterns on the ground. Others were working together, lifting heavy materials with coordinated movements that required no tools but seemed perfectly precise. Elias' mind raced. Everything here operated on principles he did not fully understand, yet it all made sense in a way that was entirely logical in their world. Lyra stopped near a clearing where several Zalorians were already seated, their legs folded beneath them as if gravity itself was a suggestion rather than a rule. They were conversing, but there was no sound in the way humans made sound. Elias realized they communicated through a combination of gestures, color shifts in their skin, and subtle vibrations that resonated in the ground. It was mesmerizing, almost like watching a living symphony. "These are the elders of our community," Lyra said softly. "They will observe your first interactions. You must understand that what you consider private, we consider communal. What you fear as intrusion, we consider trust. You will see soon enough." Humans prized privacy, Zalorians seemed to prize connection. The difference was profound. He felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. The day passed slowly, filled with lessons that stretched the limits of his understanding. He learned how Zalorians used bioluminescence to communicate emotions and intentions, how they shared work without speaking, how their sense of empathy extended beyond individual recognition to a shared awareness of their environment. He noted everything, but the most difficult lesson came when Lyra spoke again. "Tonight you will sleep among us," she said. "You will rest as we do." Sleep among them? The thought seemed impossible. Humans needed personal space. Sleeping in the presence of others, strangers no less, violated every instinct he had. He opened his mouth, but Lyra's gentle gaze stopped him. "Do not fear," she said. "It is not as you think. It is normal for Zalorians to sleep close to one another. We share our rest, our warmth, and our rhythm. It is a sign of trust. You will not be harmed." Elias followed Lyra to a large mat woven from soft fibers that seemed to float slightly above the ground. Other Zalorians were already resting there, their bodies close but not pressing, an intimate proximity that spoke of connection rather than constraint. Lyra guided him to a spot between two of the elders. "Close your eyes and breathe," she whispered. "Feel the rhythm around you. Do not resist." She did not force closeness but shifted in a way that invited it. When she gently pulled him closer, it was not threatening. It was as if the space between them dissolved, and he became aware of a shared rhythm that was almost musical. His heart, which had been pounding with anxiety, began to slow. He could sense the Zalorians around him in a new way, not as separate beings, but as part of a collective whole. Time seemed to stretch. Elias drifted into a state that was not quite sleep, not quite wakefulness. He felt impressions of the planet, of its life, of its history flowing through him. Colors and patterns danced behind his closed eyelids. He saw visions of Zalorians moving through centuries, building, learning, evolving together. He understood why they valued this closeness. It was not merely physical. It was a transfer of knowledge, trust, and empathy. Hours passed. The world outside their mat continued under the twin suns, now hidden beneath the horizon, leaving only the soft glow of bioluminescence. Elias eventually drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, still aware of the gentle hum of the Zalorians' presence. For the first time, he felt what it truly meant to be part of another species' way of life. When he awoke, dawn was breaking, painting the landscape in soft pinks and blues. Lyra was already moving, her skin shimmering with gentle gold. "Good morning," she said. "How do you feel? Remember this, and you will understand much more than the surface of our world." It required participating, sometimes in ways that felt unfamiliar or even uncomfortable. As he followed Lyra to join the rest of the community for their morning cycle, he felt a new awareness in his chest, a sense of possibility that humans could one day learn not only to understand, but to empathize in ways previously unimaginable. The Zalorians were showing him a path, subtle and patient, and he was eager to walk it. The day ahead promised new lessons: how they gathered resources, how they solved problems together, how their culture thrived not on individual achievement but on shared knowledge and collective care. Elias realized that this first night had changed him. Not just scientifically, but in a way that touched something deeper, a part of him that longed for trust, for connection, for understanding. And as he glanced at Lyra, moving gracefully among her people, he could not help but feel that his journey on Violia had truly begun. Dr. Elias Thorne did not realize how deeply that first night had affected him until the days that followed. As he moved through the Zalorian settlement, he felt different, as if something inside him had shifted quietly but permanently. The world of Violia no longer felt strange or distant. It felt alive in a way Earth never had, as if the planet itself noticed him now. The Zalorians began their day early, not by rushing or working alone, but by gathering together. Elias watched as small groups formed naturally, without commands or schedules. Each group seemed to know exactly what to do. Some tended to glowing plant structures that provided food and energy. Others worked on maintaining the living buildings, touching the walls gently as colors flowed under their hands. Lyra stayed close to him, not hovering, but always aware of his presence. She guided him through each activity, explaining patiently. "We do not divide our lives into work and rest," she said. "Everything is shared. When one learns, all learn." When one Zalorian discovered something new, others gathered around, absorbing it not just through words, but through emotion and sensation. Elias could feel it sometimes, like a faint echo in his chest, even though he was not fully connected as they were. As days passed, Elias participated more actively. He helped gather energy crystals from shallow pools that shimmered with light. He learned how Zalorians shaped tools by guiding natural growth instead of cutting or breaking materials. Each task was done together, calmly and with purpose. No one competed, no one rushed. At first, Elias struggled. His human instincts pushed him to work faster to prove his usefulness. Lyra noticed this quickly. One evening, as the light dimmed and the mist returned, she led him to a quiet place near the edge of the settlement. "You push yourself too hard," she said gently. "I don't want to be a burden," Elias replied. "I want to contribute. You carry your world inside you, and it is very loud." The closeness felt natural now, even comforting. When Lyra settled beside him and gently guided him closer, he did not hesitate. The shared rhythm wrapped around him like a calm tide. Something new happened that night. Elias felt images forming in his mind, clearer than before. He saw moments of Zalorian history, times of hardship when the planet had nearly failed, when resources were scarce. Instead of conflict, the Zalorians had gathered closer, sharing energy, warmth, and thought. Survival had not come from strength alone, but from unity. He woke with tears in his eyes, though he did not know why. The feeling stayed with him throughout the day. Word of Elias' progress spread through the settlement. The elders observed him more closely now. One of them, a being with deep blue patterns across their skin, approached Elias during a communal gathering. "You adapt quickly," the elder said, "faster than we expected." He thought of Earth, of nations arguing, people isolating themselves, technology connecting everyone yet leaving many alone. The contrast hurt more than he expected. One afternoon, a sudden disturbance rippled through the settlement. The ground vibrated sharply, not with the usual calm hum, but with tension. Zalorians paused, their skin shifting to warning colors. Elias felt it too, a sharp pressure in his chest. Lyra moved quickly to his side. "The planet is unstable in this region," she said. "It happens rarely, but we must respond together." Zalorians placed their hands on the ground, their skin glowing brighter as they shared energy with the land itself. Elias hesitated, unsure how he could help. Lyra took his hand and placed it on the surface beside hers. "You are part of this now," she said. Elias felt heat, then vibration, then something deeper. It was as if the planet responded to their combined presence. His heart raced, but he stayed focused, breathing as Lyra had taught him. Slowly, the vibration softened. The danger passed. When it was over, Elias collapsed back onto the ground, exhausted. Lyra stayed with him, her presence steady and reassuring. "You did well," she said. "I didn't think I could do anything," Elias replied. "Sometimes," Lyra said, "presence is enough." He began documenting not just facts, but experiences, how closeness built trust, how shared rest strengthened bonds, how empathy functioned as a survival tool. He realized that human science lacked language for many of these concepts. One evening, as they prepared to rest, Elias asked Lyra a question that had been growing in his mind. "Why did you choose me to experience your sleeping rituals so quickly?" That night, as Lyra pulled him gently closer, Elias felt something new, not just comfort, but trust flowing both ways. He was not just receiving anymore. He was giving too, offering his presence, his openness. He dreamed of Earth again, but this time it was different. He saw humans standing together, learning from each other, bridging differences instead of deepening them. He woke with a sense of purpose burning quietly inside him. Elias knew now that his mission was bigger than observation. He was learning something humanity desperately needed. And as he lay among the Zalorians, feeling their calm rhythm surround him, he understood that the hardest lesson was still ahead: how to bring this understanding back to his own people. The Zalorians had opened their world to him. Soon, he would need to decide how to open humanity in return. Dr. Elias Thorne stood on the edge of the glowing plains, staring at the twin suns as they began their slow rise over the horizon. Each morning, he felt a strange calm settle in his chest, a rhythm that matched the pulse of the planet. Weeks of living among the Zalorians had changed him in ways he could barely describe. He no longer saw them as just an alien species to study. They were teachers, guides, and friends, and he had begun to realize that humanity, with all its knowledge and technology, had much to learn from them. Lyra approached silently, her skin shifting gently in soft gold and green. "You seem lost in thought," she said. "I am," Elias admitted. "I keep thinking about Earth, about how humans live. We fight over resources, power, and pride. We keep distance from each other, and we fear differences instead of learning from them. To understand that trust, empathy, and closeness are not weaknesses, but strength. Humans learn best when they see truth lived, not just spoken." Humans could never work like this, he thought, and yet perhaps they could if they learned to let go of ego and fear. That evening, the elders called him to the central gathering. He approached cautiously, aware of their presence and the gravity of the moment. The largest elder, with deep sapphire patterns on its skin, extended a limb toward him. "Elias Thorne, you have adapted well. You have observed, participated, and embraced our ways. You understand the balance between individuality and community. Humans are not accustomed to trust and closeness in this way. The trust you feel here, the rhythm of connection, you can carry it inside you. That will be enough to start." Instead of merely receiving the comfort and understanding, he felt a surge of determination. He would return to Earth not just as an observer, but as a catalyst. When dawn came, the plains glowed faintly under the twin suns, and Elias felt ready. He had recorded every detail, every sensation, every lesson. But he knew the most important thing could not be written. It had to be felt. The shuttle awaited, gleaming against the violet horizon. As Elias prepared to depart, the Zalorians gathered around him. Lyra placed a hand on his arm, the skin warm and shimmering softly. "Remember," she said, "connection is the path forward. Fear divides, but trust unites. Carry that." Elias reviewed his recordings, but they felt incomplete. The words and images could not capture the subtle warmth of shared presence, the unspoken empathy, or the way the planet itself seemed to breathe with the Zalorians. He realized that true understanding required action, not just documentation. Upon landing on Earth, Elias was met by a small team of scientists and officials, all eager for his report. They were excited, impatient, and a little skeptical. They expected data, measurements, and pictures. They did not expect what he brought instead, a vision of possibility. He began with the facts, describing the Zalorian species, their technologies, their communal systems. But then he paused, looking at the faces before him. "You will learn more from what I am about to describe than from any diagram or number," he said. "The most important lesson is not scientific, it is human." He described the rhythm of life among the Zalorians, the way they coordinated without competition, how closeness created strength rather than weakness. He explained the night cycles, the communal sleep, and the feelings of connection he had experienced. Some of the scientists were skeptical. "Humans aren't Zalorians," one said. "We can't function like that. We don't need to copy them, but we can embrace the principle. We can see each other not as threats or rivals, but as partners. We can share knowledge, we can cooperate, we can build trust." They began asking questions, not about technology, but about behavior, empathy, and connection. In the weeks that followed, Elias organized small experiments. Groups of humans were encouraged to work together without hierarchy, to share tasks, and to rest near one another during simulations. The results were surprising. Conflicts decreased. Communication improved. Ideas flowed more freely. Even small changes in proximity and cooperation created measurable gains. Elias wrote extensively, not just in scientific journals, but in essays meant for the wider public. He described Violia, the Zalorians, and the lessons he had learned. He used simple language, knowing that the truth of connection could not be hidden behind jargon. His words reached people from all walks of life, and slowly awareness grew. But Elias did not stop there. He continued to study the Zalorians remotely, maintaining contact through a neural-linked interface designed by the Violians themselves. He shared updates, learning new methods of collaboration, conflict resolution, and energy management. Every time he connected, he felt the familiar calm, the pulse of trust, and it reminded him why he had come. Years later, Elias returned to Violia. This time, he was not just a visitor or a student, he was a recognized partner. The Zalorians greeted him warmly, their glow brighter than ever, signaling approval and acceptance. He participated fully, no longer an outsider, no longer unsure. He had learned the greatest lesson of all: connection is not just a ritual, but a way of life, and humans had the potential to reach for it if they dared to try. He watched Lyra move among her people, their skin patterns shifting in elegant harmony, and felt a deep sense of peace. "You have done well," she said quietly. "Not because you learned our ways perfectly, but because you carried the essence of it to your people." He had seen firsthand that when beings choose empathy over fear, cooperation over conflict, and trust over isolation, extraordinary things become possible. The twin suns rose fully over Violia, bathing the land in warm light. Elias stood among the Zalorians, feeling a rhythm he now understood as deeply as his own heartbeat. He closed his eyes, breathing in the quiet strength of the planet, the community, and the lessons he had learned. And for the first time, he felt completely certain that humans, too, could rise, not just in technology, but in spirit. The story of Elias Thorne and the Zalorians would be told for generations, not as a tale of alien study, but as proof of human potential. Humanity could grow, adapt, and flourish, not just by exploring the stars, but by understanding the meaning of closeness, trust, and connection. And in that knowledge, Elias saw the future, bright and endless, waiting for those willing to embrace it. He looked at Lyra one last time before departing, her eyes shimmering with the calm understanding he had come to rely on. "Thank you," he whispered. She responded with a gentle nod. "The path forward is yours to walk, but remember, you never walk alone."